Hey guys, this is Morphious with another video. In this video, I'm going to answer the question, what is Classic Era? Because I'm sure at this point many of you have seen videos and posts and people talking about Classic Era, especially recently since it's been coming back with a pretty strong resurgence. And because of that, I get a lot of questions all the time asking about it, and so I figured I should do a catch-all video explaining what Classic Era is. Now, I want to start this off with a disclaimer. I am not here to tell you to play Classic Era. That's not my role. That's not my job. That's very much your decision, because it's your time, your money. All I'm going to do here is talk about my experiences and opinions having played the game, and at the end of the video, you can take that information and just have it and then do with it what you will. I'm also currently playing Wrath of the Lich King, and my brother's playing Dragonflight, so there's lots of World of Warcraft expansions out there right now, and there's lots of different games to play, so it's just fun to know what your options are. And with that being said, let's talk about Classic Era. So the first thing a lot of people ask is, literally, what is it? Like, some people think it's a private server. I think there's just some confusion out there. If you have a World of Warcraft subscription, you have access to Classic Era. This is the original vanilla classic game that we were all playing, 3 years ago. And that then eventually progressed on into Classic TBC, and then now has progressed on into Classic Wrath. If you remember, when TBC first came out, you were given an option. You could, for free, continue on to TBC, or you could stay in Classic Era, or you could pay some money and have your character copied. So then you have a copy of your character on Classic Era, and then also one on TBC. So when they created that option, they basically saved some of those vanilla classic servers, and they have stayed vanilla. Phase 6, they don't progress. Blizzard's confirmed that these are permanent, so they're not going anywhere. We just kind of infinitely live in Phase 6, which we now affectionately call Phase 7. So when these servers were originally created, or continued on however you'd like to see it, most players chose to move on to TBC, understandably so. And the players that were left on Classic Era, there was only a small amount, and they were sort of fragmented across all these servers. There was only a low population of players on each individual server. Blizzard saw this, recognized it as an issue, and combined the servers together into clusters. So for example, I'm on the whitemane cluster, which is whitemane plus 10 other servers. So I'm from Bigglesworth, for example, yet I'm playing with players from these other 10 servers. And again, all the content I'm showing here is from the North American whitemane cluster. So one thing that's, I think, a little bit misleading for players or confusing is when they first pull up the Classic Era servers, it says low, low, low for the population of all of them, right? And in reality, it's a bit higher than that, because that's only showing the players from that individual server. But in reality, when you're in Stormwind, the auction house out in the world, you are part of a cluster, which is you and multiple other servers combined together. So the actual population of players that you're with, so it's a lot higher than that just low standard population you would see on an individual server. So that's been good, and that's definitely helped increase the community and presence. That's been going on for a while. Blizzard did that a long time ago, which we appreciate. Now, they didn't do all of them into one. That would have been awesome. But they still wanted to maintain the PvE and PvP distinction. So basically, currently, there is 4 main clusters that you would want to go to. Now, this is a part, if you're interested in Classic Era, you want to pay attention to, because if you have to make server transfers, you want to make sure you go to the right one. I'm going to list this information in the description below so you can easily access it, but I'm also going to say it here. And this is the question I get the most often, but it's about, which server should I go to? Alright, so let's talk about the main North American servers first. So the main PvP North American server is whitemane. The main PvE, which is going to be raiding, questing, maybe kind of RP stuff, main PvE North American cluster is going to be Mankrik. And then for EU servers, the main PvP EU server is firemaw. And then the main PvE cluster for EU is going to be Felwood. Now, another important thing to remember is these are clusters. So there's a decent chance, considering how many servers are merged in together, that the server you're already on is already a part of one of these. It's not guaranteed. It definitely might not be. But you just want to check that because, for example, let's say you're on Bigglesworth, then you're already a part of the whitemane cluster. There's no reason to transfer servers unless you want to be on the PvE server. So make sure to check that. That's going to be in the description below. I'm going to have all the different servers that were merged together listed out so you can see what cluster you would already be on and then decide whether or not you would want to transfer if you were trying to play. So that's a big one because that truly is the most common question I get is about which server to go to. And again, all the content here is from North American whitemane servers. And then also, yes, I'm showing North American content. To my understanding, the EU community has been the same, if not bigger, than the North American community. So the EU stuff should be pretty comparable to this. So let's talk community because I know that's a big draw in Classic Era. The first thing you'll notice is, there's not the rush of players that you have, like, for example, in Classic Wrath of Lich King, right, where you have a bunch of tourist players and you have this hype and you've got this whole, like, big set of players, and then you have a mass exodus at some point, right? With Era, it's a smaller amount of players, but they're consistent, and it's like this just core group. You see a lot of the same faces, people get to know each other pretty easily because of that, and it's this sort of just, like, core community that plays very consistently, which I think is cool. And, considering how good they are, they're honestly very inviting, which is really nice. That was one of the first things I noticed. They're helpful, they're very knowledgeable about the games, they're helpful, they're inviting, which is awesome. And, another cool thing is because people are already geared out, people aren't doing the whole BIS run where everyone's trying to get BIS gear. And all that kind of stuff. Everyone's like competing against each other. It's not like that. Like everyone's already BIS'd out. You're just playing and having fun. But I'll be honest, man, these are some gamers in here. A lot of these people have been playing against since 2005. Guilds got their runs down, like Phase 7, for example. I just saw their numbers recently that they have, the fastest North American Naxx run at a full run at 1 hour and 7 minutes for Naxx, which is just like insane. Some serious gamers, man. I'll give you an example. There is a dwarf Naxx priest who is just like pretty much full Naxx BIS gear. That same player has another dwarf Naxx priest who is full Naxx BIS gear pretty much, and dual box heals on both of them during raids. So he has 2 full BIS of the exact same character and he dual box heals on both of them. I mean, that's just so gamer, like a bead of sweat just dripped down my forehead just describing that. And that's just one example, man. There's a lot of people are full BIS, a lot of Grand Marshals. So I think that's really fun and can be sort of just cool end game, like kind of competitive. Everyone's like finally maxed out kind of point, which is awesome. Now, with that being said, let's say you're just trying it out. You know what I mean? You're like, well, I mean, I'm not a Grand Marshal like PvP master, and I don't have like full BIS gear and ATS and Thunder Fury and all this stuff, and that's totally cool, man. Honestly, there are a lot of people who are just trying it out for the first time, who are kind of like late to the Classic Era boat, who kind of missed it 3 years ago and are still curious about it now and wanting to check it out, or they're wanting to make new characters. There is definitely plenty of new people that are trying it out. I get questions all the time from like new people, and players are generally like very helpful towards those kind of new players, which is awesome. And that's another big draw is like the game is nostalgic, right? Like this is the original game from 2005. It has, in my opinion, a completely different feel than any new World of Warcraft expansion. Just because when this was created in 2005 as a passion project, this version of the game was the original, like working super hard to create this World of Warcraft experience versus now the cash pig of just like crank out a new expansion every single year right before Christmas, which is how it kind of is now in retail, unfortunately. But if you like retail, that's awesome. No hate against that. But this, at least for me, it's got a very different feel, very nostalgic. It's really fun. So a lot of these players have been playing since 2005 on many different characters. So they're very knowledgeable about the game, which is awesome. But there's definitely also new players just trying it out, and they have a good time too. So that's super cool. So that's sort of the community. I think that's a pretty good description of it. Let's talk about PvP. So PvP is why I'm here personally. For me, I kind of have a busy life, to be completely honest, and I hardly ever have any free time. So Classic Era is perfect because I have my BIS gear, and I just log in and I PvP with my maxed out gear, and I am good to go. That's great for me to just be able to log in. I don't have to worry about dailies. I don't have to worry about progression. A new phase or raid comes out and all of a sudden I have to get a whole new set of gear. I don't have to do any of that. I just log in and I PvP and I log out, which is great. That's exactly how I would like to play this game. So that's perfect for me. There's ranking for sure. We get a new Grand Marshal every single week. And so ranking is going on. Battlegrounds, we've got it to where battlegrounds happen every single day. So Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, battlegrounds are happening. As far as the big battlegrounds days, that's going to be Friday and also Saturday. But Friday is the biggest day for sure. We also organize, WOTLK Valleys. We actually have a Discord that some players just recently put together to help organize queuing up for WOTLK Valley. Recently we've been getting those to pop. And when we do, we just go off. It's like game after game after game. So that's been super fun. They're actually doing a PvP tournament, like dueling tournament coming up soon. So Discord got created for that. I swear, man, I'm literally in like 40 Discords. Because people, create stuff and it helps them communicate and organize, even also organizing between Horde and Alliance, which I think is super cool. And while I'm talking about that, I just want to give a shout out real quick because I think this is so cool. I've played World of Warcraft off and on for a long time, and never have I had so much cross-faction working together. Like the Horde and the Alliance work together, dropping buffs, they communicate with both sides. Setting up things like world PvP events. The dueling tournament that's coming up, it's going to have Horde and Alliance players in it. I can give you another example too. I thought this was so cool. So one time I was raiding AQ40 and I got a piece of tier gear and I needed an Idol of War, which at the time, it's like a hot commodity. Like Idol of War is one of the big ones. It's hard to get. And I wasn't able to get it. The next day, I have one in my mailbox, and it was sent to me by a Horde raiding guild that heard that I needed one, and they sent it to me. So a Horde raiding guild sent me, an Alliance person, an Idol of War just because they heard that I was in need of one. So that's super cool. Stuff like that. I'll give you another example. I think this is really cool. We do pre-mades versus pre-mades. And there was one time where one of the pre-mades, they were all flasked up. They sent, pots and flasks and stuff so we could be able to boost up and be a little bit more competitive against each other. So that stuff's just super cool. In all my time of playing World of Warcraft, I have never seen that amount of cross-faction communication. And some people might not like that, but honestly, I think it's great. Let's talk raiding. I kind of briefly mentioned raiding earlier, but yeah, all the raids are getting run by a variety of guilds. So everything: Molten Core, AQ20, AQ40, ZG, Blackwing Lair, Naxx. It's all getting run on a weekly basis. That's cool. In the past, I've said that there was no GDKPs. There are, but they're definitely not the dominant thing. The most common thing you're going to see is guild runs that are just a standard soft reserve. Yeah, so raiding's good. Players are really geared out. A thing that's nice about that is, most of the players that are raiding only need 1 or 2 pieces of gear. So if you're fresh level 60 and you've got enough gear to get into a raid, chances are you're going to make it out like a bandit and get quite a bit of stuff. Because most of this gear is getting passed on. So that's a nice benefit for those that are wanting to gear up. Overall, I would say it's been a really good experience. I very much enjoyed my time in playing Classic Era, and I look forward to continue to play as it grows. I think that it's only going to get bigger. We got our Seasons of Mastery players recently. For those that are playing Wrath, eventually the hype will die down on that, and I think players will come back. And as Blizzard eventually, bastardizes Classic, and they eventually try to push it into Classic Cataclysm, sort of defeating the purpose of Classic, I think that Classic Era, the original vanilla game, will be the Classic to stay. And long term, when you look at World of Warcraft, where it's going, I think this will be one of the main draws for the central World of Warcraft community very long term. So it's just one of those games that's just gonna, I think, consistently kind of grow. And the nice thing is it will always be here. If you did clone your character forever ago, log in, check it out. If you want to make a new character, log in, check it out. You know, if you have a World of Warcraft subscription, you have access to Classic Era. And yeah, you know, I think it's definitely worth checking it out, and you can decide whether or not you want to be a part of this. But I've had a lot of fun. I appreciate your time. I appreciate your attention. I hope this video was helpful and informative. If it was, please like, subscribe, check out the channel. I've got lots of other videos about Classic Era. Thank you so much for watching, and have a great day.